welcome back to another episode of the Film Reelcast. I'm Stuart, your host. I'm pleased to say we're back in Farmington, which can mean only one thing. We're actually going to review The Shield. Up to episode 12. It's been so long since I've done this episode. There's been The Mandalorian, WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So much has got in the way. But I love this series. If you've never seen The Shield and you love your police dramas and you love gritty police dramas who focus on drugs, trafficking, the violence, the gang violence in Los Angeles, there is nothing better than The Shield. The Wire is just as good, but The Shield is fantastic. Once you watch it, I promise you, you'll be addicted. That's why I want to go back. I want to do all 7 seasons, and I will do, even if it kills me and sees me into my old age. So, this is episode 12, season 1 of The Shield. But before we get into this, as usual, as I always say, check down there, subscribe to this channel. Some assholes hacked into my Facebook page, which means I don't have that, but I've restored it again. It's the Film Reelcast on Facebook. It's the same logo. The last entry you'll see is the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. There's the post there. There's Rush Hour 3 posts. So if you go onto that page and click on follow, it'll be great. Everything I do will be posted on there, as well as Twitter at the Film Reelcast and Instagram at the Film Reelcast. And also we're on Android and on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, everywhere for the audio podcast that we do once a week. So at the moment, there's 2 podcasts every single week. Falcon and the Winter Soldier and another random film. We're going to do Rush Hour 1, then it's the Terminator franchise, which I can't wait to do. It'll be myself, Neil, James, Rav will be joining in. Paul may come back. I honestly don't know. I hope so, but at some point Paul could come back, so we could have 5 of us, 5 people on the podcast, 5 different points of view. Okay, on with The Shield, episode 12. See, as usual in these episodes, you've got several different storylines. You've got the main storyline going along, which normally involves Vic and the corruption and him trying to get out of jail every single time, and side plots as well. In this one, you've got a cockfighting ring, which the rest of the strike team get in. Vic is pulled away on another case, but it involves a guy called Puzzy who's wanted, who's a gun runner who imports guns. Shane goes undercover to try and infiltrate this cockfighting ring so he can get Puzzy. He finds out that there is a huge bounty on Puzzy's head. He should be bringing him into the barn, arresting him, but if he can get him over the border, then he's going to get a massive bounty, which he wants to split with Lem. But Lem never wants to do this. Lem wants to do the straight thing. But as usual, and as you'll see as it gets into episode 5, 6 and 7, that Lem gets drawn over that line where he can't go back. Vic, meanwhile, is embroiled in this investigation. He's pulled into it against his own will because of the fact that Gilroy, who's in charge of the barn, Vic owes him a favour. They go back a long way. They both abuse their trust. And when I use the word trust, I use it really, really thin because there's not much trust. They're constantly playing each other. Gilroy has got himself into a lot of shit and he's asking Vic to get him out. He brings Dutch in to investigate. And as we know from the previous episode, Dutch doesn't let it go. Once he gets a sniff of something, he's there. So he gets Dutch involved and Vic involved to try and get him out of shit. Dutch and Vic are playing off each other. Vic's trying to cover Gilroy's back. Dutch is wanting to find a crime. And we also have another story as well, which involves Captain Aceveda, where there's a domestic incident. The police are taking too long, 45 minutes to get to this incident. By the time they get there, a whole family have been murdered. They put this down to political needs of where they're moving the police. Aceveda's got to get himself out. And in doing so, he comes in kind of entwined with the plot of Gilroy and what he's up to as well. So we'll be talking about that this episode. Obviously, it's going to contain spoilers. If you've not seen episode 12, go and watch it now, then come back to this. But it's great. I love The Shield. It's so exciting. Okay, so Gilroy's trouble starts, as you see. It opens up with this. On the street, you've got a few gangbangers just hanging around. Out of the blue, bang, this car nails one of them, drags her about 50, 60 yards down the street underneath the car. This is witnessed by another gangbanger who opens fire. It turns out that Gilroy was the driver of that car and he goes to Vic to try and help him out. And Gilroy's got a previous history of drink driving. So if he comes forward and admits what he's doing, there's chances that he was over the limit. He's having an affair, he's a married man, he cannot afford for this to go public. So Vic tries to cover things up. And in doing so, he really puts Vic in danger. Vic goes to one of the gangs to actually find the guy who's the witness and to tell him that he didn't see anything. If you don't come forward as a witness, if you say you saw nothing, you didn't see the driver of the car, you didn't see the make and model of the car, then I'll owe you a favour. And Vic gives him his card and says, I'll bail you out. If you get in any trouble, if you get arrested for drug dealing, for possession, for guns, for anything like that, I owe you a favour, which is a good thing, and I'll bail you out. And remember, as you can see, the whole gang see Vic leaving with this gangbanger. Meanwhile, Dutch has been asked to investigate this. As we know, Dutch loves the limelight. He loves the focus. He wants to be taken seriously. At the moment, despite all the crimes that he solves, for some reason he remains a joke with everyone. So Dutch gets on it. Vic knows this could be a problem because Vic knows, despite him being a joke, that Dutch does get shit done, and Dutch will find things out, and Dutch will go and ask the questions that people don't want to ask, and that certainly people don't want to answer, and he does get a lead. And he gets this gangbanger's name, and he gets a witness to say there was another person in the car. As far as Vic knew, it was Gilroy driving and no one else. So to find out there's someone else in the car adds to the problem. It's another witness, someone else who could come forward, someone else who could finger Gilroy in this, and obviously finger Vic for not investigating it properly. And it turns out the other passenger in the car was a female who belongs to one of the gangs, and that Gilroy's been seeing her for quite a long time, and his car's been seen parked outside her address. So there's multiple people who can put Gilroy's car there. It's not looking good for Gilroy. It's not looking good for Vic, who's trying to get him out of this shit. And they get the gangbanger together, who's the witness who saw Gilroy driving the car, who saw the female in the car, and he's with Vic. And Vic's negotiating a deal with him, saying that don't say anything, it'll be in your favour, and I'll help you out, as I said before. But just as the deal's done, just as they make the negotiations, Gilroy turns around and, as you can see, he shoots this guy dead. The trouble is, Vic was the one seen walking away by the other gangbangers with this guy. He turns up dead, they're going to blame Vic. Who they're going to come after and kill? Vic. Whose family they're going to kill? It's Vic's. So the pressure is on Vic. This is another selfish act by Gilroy. But Gilroy is trying to save his own skin. He couldn't give a shit about Vic. So Claudette and Aceveda go to this address where there was this domestic. And it turns out that everyone's dead, and they go back and listen to the tapes, and it's true. The family called the police multiple times and waited 45 minutes, but there were no police resources. Reason being, Gilroy has moved all of the police patrol units out of that area into another area, which means crime is growing in the area where this murder happened. And why is that, you ask? Reason being, it's to do with property. Gilroy is really, really cunning. What he's doing is he's pulling the units out of one area so the crime goes up, so the property's cheaper. And in doing so, Gilroy is embezzling money, buying those properties for himself, and once he's bought enough properties, he'll then put the police back in so the area becomes secure and the properties increase, and then he can sell those properties. But in doing so, several people need to die, like these women at this crime scene. And he blames Aceveda. He throws Aceveda under the bus and says it was Aceveda's idea to move the people out.
David has discretion on how his units are assigned.
So you're the one who's responsible.
And remember, Aceveda's the one who wants to run for council one day, so this isn't good. So he's really, really being thrown under the bus. Shane brings in a bounty hunter, and you've seen this bounty hunter. I love this guy. He's full of tattoos. He was in Nip Tuck. He played a real badass in that. So he brings his bounty hunter in, and the bounty on Puzzy is $400,000. No, 400,000 pesos, sorry. Shane, being the idiot that he is, he thinks the equivalent of that is dollars, but it isn't. It's only about $60,000. But they're going to split that 50-50. The idea is that they kidnap Puzzy and they give him to the bounty hunter, who's then going to put him over the border into Mexico, where they can collect that. Which is obviously against the law because police can't collect bounties. But that never stops Shane. The law doesn't matter when it comes to money. So much to Vic's dismay, Dutch approaches him and tells him that the properties are being bought and the money's invested in an offshore bank account in the Cayman Islands. Vic is now starting to put two and two together. He even goes to Aceveda and asks him what would happen if someone started buying up the properties in Farmington if the crime was going down. And he explains it to him, and that's when it twigs that Gilroy is in fact buying these properties, and that he's using Vic so he can get away with buying these properties, A, making the money which is illegal, B, killing someone, obviously, and the fact he's having an affair. All of this responsibility to cover this up is now on Vic. Back to Aceveda, due to the murders being so high profile, it's not long before they track the guy down, and it turns out that he's been seeing one of the women's daughters who he murdered. She is completely unaware that her new boyfriend has killed the rest of her family. But they're busting a hotel, they arrest him, and he's out the picture. But this has not been any good for Aceveda's political career. And amongst all the investigation and the crime and the deaths, it's all about his political career. Interesting enough, a plot that grows, which starts to grow in this episode, which kind of follows along into episode 2 as well. Remember Julian? He was in a homosexual relationship with Toby. And Toby was fleecing him, but kind of it made Julian come out the closet. And it was just something that went against him in the police station, which was a really kind of jock atmosphere. It was very testosterone driven. And it didn't take well to Julian kind of coming out the closet and the rumours that he was gay. So what Julian does, he goes to meet the pastor of his local church. And what they do is run this kind of club where they'll teach you not to be gay, which obviously we know is ridiculous. Sadly, it does go on in the UK still. But it's lessons in how not to be gay and how to be straight and how to conduct yourself as a heterosexual male rather than homosexual. We know this is nonsense. We know this doesn't work, but it involves a lot of punishment, a lot of self-punishment and torture for Julian. And this is a really good story that back in when this episode was first out was something that, again, nothing else like this had been done. And what I love about The Shield is that they aren't afraid to deal with issues of race, of kind of homosexuality, like drug abuse, alcohol abuse, domestic issues. They'll deal with that front on, and they'll deal with it pretty raw as well. And this is a really interesting story as it goes along. Vic, funnily enough, is the one that's telling Julian, you're gay, deal with it. It's not a problem. Everyone, after a while, will be able to accept it, and you can just get on. But you can't go on denying who you really are. And it's really interesting the way this goes. So Shane finally meets Puzzy at a cockfighting match, and in true Shane style, even though he's trying to apprehend him, he still manages to screw that up, and it's Lem who comes to the rescue, smacking Puzzy round the head with a plank of wood, and they meet the bounty hunter, and they do collect the bounty. But they don't tell Vic about it. That's one thing they don't do. And he gets the money, and they split it 50-50. Len isn't happy, but it's a problem dealt with. And one thing you will learn throughout all of these seasons is that when Vic isn't around, when they try and deal with a problem themselves, especially when it's Shane, that things don't go to plan. So Vic fronts up to Gilroy and tells him he knows exactly what he's doing, and Gilroy is so brazen about it. He doesn't give a shit. He's been caught, he's got the money, but he doesn't care. Vic is disgusted. One thing Vic is really, really big on is trust. If you double cross Vic, he won't forget it, and he will fuck you over down the line. He might not do it next week, next month, but he will get you back. So Vic approaching Gilroy has exposed Gilroy. It's made him very vulnerable. It's put him in an awkward position. Vic can now blackmail him, and Gilroy knows that. So to turn the screws and turn the tables, whilst Vic's at work, he gets a phone call from Corinne. And Corinne asks, where are you? And he says, I'm at work. You know I'm at work. And he says, well, Ben's here already. Ben Gilroy has gone round to Vic's. And he talks to Vic, and he blackmails him over the phone. And he says that family are really important. You never know when you're going to see the family again. And you've got to be careful. It's a threat to Vic. Vic doesn't take kindly to this. But by the time Vic arrives with the sheriffs, that Gilroy's gone. And the look on Vic's face when Shane says that Gilroy's crossed the line, he's done. He's done means that he's going to get taken out. And Vic knows that. So that was episode 12. Really interesting episode, and it's good the way it's developing. You've got the Julian storyline with the correction of his sexuality, which we know won't end well. We've got Gilroy, who is now on the run from Vic, and Vic will do everything to track him down because he's threatened Vic's family. And you've got the political game as well with Aceveda. So all of these things, these three things, do run in tangent, and it makes it really interesting. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that. It's a really, really quick spin of episode 12 of The Shield. Just something I'm really passionate about, and I want everyone to watch it. If you can watch this episode, I really, really recommend it. Okay, thanks guys. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate every single view and every single listen of the podcast that we're getting at the moment. It's doing really well. The Star Wars Mandalorian, the final one, has just hit 1.3 thousand. I'm so pleased. It's unbelievable. So many people have watched that video. But there's so much more to watch. There's loads to listen to on iTunes and on Android. And remember, the podcasts do get uploaded on this channel as well. Okay, I'm Stuart. This is the Film Reel Cast, and I will see you very soon.